Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 4, session 3C, Climate Justice Fellows, session 2. My name is Ariel Wharton, and I'm a climate change specialist for SIEGE at the University of Maryland. The Climate Justice Fellows program is a groundbreaking initiative led by the Center for Community Engagement, Environmental Justice, and Health at the University of Maryland within the School of Public Health. This 21-week immersive virtual training and implementation program is designed to equip individuals with essential knowledge about environmental justice and climate justice principles. The Climate Justice Fellows program places a significant emphasis on the Capstone Project, which serves as a culminating experience for our cohort members. This project is cohort members led. This project, is cohort members led, allowing the fellows to take ownership of their work while receiving guidance and support from myself, Ariel Wharton, Dr. Wilson, and Siege. The Capstone Project provides an important opportunity for fellows to apply the knowledge and skills they have gained through the program to a real-world problem in a community. By addressing a local environmental or climate change challenge, cohort members can make a positive impact in their partner community and actively bolster environmental and climate justice initiatives. Now, in this session, our fellows will present their capstone projects. These topics within the session will focus on stormwater, regenerative agriculture within Maryland, and walk audits. Fellows will also showcase their community projects that are dedicated to making strides and addressing climate and environmental injustices. Welcome, fellows, welcome panelists. First up, we have Nicole Jackson, or Nikki. She is a principal sustainability consultant within Monarch Professional Services Group. Next, we have Myra Cobb Davis, and she is a senior loan administrative manager within Montgomery County Bank. And last but not least, we have Brittany Smith, who is a senior at Trinity Washington University. Welcome. Now, first up, I would just like to say, can you not hear? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm seeing something in the chat. Can you hear me now? Walter? Okay. I will continue for the sake of time. However, please let me know if you are able to hear what I am saying. And perfectly. Thank you, Stephanie. Sorry about that. Sorry for the delay. So as I mentioned, we would love to hold questions until the end of the session, just so we can be efficient with time. But please do write your questions within the chat, and I will relay the questions once all our panelists have completed their presentations. And first up, we have Brittany Smith. You have the floor, Brittany.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany Smith. I am a graduating senior at Trinity Washington University with a concentration in business administration, with minors in both economics and environmental justice. And before I start this presentation, I just would like to give a quick thanks to Dr. Jacoby Wilson, Ariel, Mr. Sugdio from Fairmont Heights, Dr. Zoots, and Dr. Diana Watts. I want to thank you all for providing me with the resources and knowledge to help me get this presentation done and complete this capstone project. All right, so I had the opportunity to present a short lesson plan on regenerative agriculture, sustainability, and environmental justice to the agricultural clubs at Fairmont Heights High School, taught by Mr. Ashok Sugdio. I can't pronounce it right. I'm sorry if I chopped it. And there are about 24 students in 3 classes ranging from 9th and 12th grades. All right, so, sorry, could you do this slide? Oh, thank you. I grew up in PG County. I didn't really know much about Fairmont Heights, unless it regarded only, soccer, because I played on the soccer team. But after attending the school on Tuesday, I was made aware of a lot of concerning things. One of which being that about 3,000 feet away from the school, there were like 3 to 4 liquor stores in one complex, as well as fast food restaurants, and they're labeled here in the triangle the diamond and the sun is the school. And I also found out that there's 4 gas stations on one strip about 2,000 feet away from the school. So, I came to the class with the original plan of, introducing regenerative agriculture, sustainability, and environmental justice, but it seemed as though that we needed to focus more on the environmental justice topic, as a lot of the students didn't, know about it, including the 12th graders. So for some context, this school, Fairmont Heights, was built in 1950. I think one of the first schools that were open for Black African-American students. It was refurbished in 2017. And now there's predominantly Black and brown students that go there. And the communities surrounding this school are impoverished communities. And I also found out that the students actually go to work after school to help their families with finances at home. Slide, please. But on the brighter side, they do have an agricultural club has a greenhouse, right outside their classroom. They have an aquaponics system, which you'll see in this picture here, as well as a hydroponic system. So as far as the aquaponics system, as far as I understood, it's the tilapia located in the far left tub there, closer to the door. They use their tilapia waste, which gets transferred through the rocks there that you see in the center, filtered out, and then transferred into the last bin and used as nutrients to grow lettuce. So the roots from that lettuce there's no soil in this process, so the roots from that lettuce are just in water-filled nutrients, and it helps the plants grow faster and stronger. And a lot of the faculty and staff take this lettuce home. And in the hydroponic system, I didn't get a photo of, but it's essentially the same thing, but just with nutrients into the water, not using the fish waste. Slide, please. All right, so this is just a quick agenda that I had for the students, what I was going to be teaching them. I start off with an introduction, a quick, what do you know about these 3 topics? We defined what sustainability is, regenerative agriculture, and environmental justice. And then we had a quick group discussion and a conclusion. Slide, please. So we had our what do you know? A lot of the students didn't really know what regenerative agriculture was. They knew what agriculture was, sustainability, and they did not know what environmental justice was. So that was interesting. Slide, please. So for sustainability, I gave them 3 quick definitions. The first definition being by the Brundtland Report, talking about, not, affecting our future generations, but, sustaining our generation now. And the second one by Donda and Young, taken from the sustainability book published in 2013. Just a more in-depth definition of what it means to be sustainable from the Brundtland Report. And then lastly, Kate Rathworth's Donut Economics, which kind of ties into sustainability a little bit. It just talks about how humans, businesses, and governments thriving without overshooting the ecological limits and ensuring that a lot of our social needs and essentials are met. So I kind of asked the students, what does it mean to be sustainable and why is it important? And these 4 pillars that we have here, culturally, in our society, why is it important? For our economy, why is it important for the environment? So I provided them the 2 articles, both on the Wheelbarator built in Baltimore, the trash incinerator. And there was one article that was for the creation of the Wheelbarator, and the second one was against it. So slide, please. Sorry. So the students reviewed both articles, and then I asked them a question of, what were some of the ways the Wheelbarator was negatively or positively impacting the environment or society and the economy in Baltimore? And here are some of the responses for the first one. The ones highlighted in red are the negatives that they pointed out from both articles. And then the ones that are in green are the positives that they pointed out. So for the environment, they said pollution in the air was bad. And the dioxins and particulate matter, which were the pollutions in the air, were also bad. Some of the positives that they found was that the Wheelbarator decreases landfill usage and reduces CO2 emissions, as well as that it processed 6,908, 204 tons of waste into clean energy. And then for society, they saw that it provided a lot of job opportunities, energy for the city, community engagement. They had a lot of initiatives for the communities, apparently. And then some of the negatives were that the people who already had COVID-19 were suffering even more. And then the people that lived nearby these communities were mostly people of color, and they suffered from asthma attacks, cancer, strokes, and heart attacks. And then as far as the economy, I was kind of surprised at their responses for this one, because I don't know if economics is taught in high school just yet. But they pointed out a couple of positives and negatives. The first positive was that the Wheelabrator produced over 255 businesses, produces power for those businesses, allowing them to generate money. And then the second one being that it created job opportunities for the residents nearby. But some of the negatives were that when it was broken, it cost a lot of money to do the repairs, and it cost $55 million in harm to health. And then I asked them, do they think if the Wheelabrator was unsustainable or sustainable? A lot of them answered both, because but the positives weren't as good as the negatives. The positives didn't outweigh the negatives. So the answer was both in the end. Slide, please. And then we moved on to talking about regenerative agriculture. I gave them a simple definition and some examples of what it is, what it's like to have a regenerative agriculture. A lot of them knew what that was. I guess, throughout their agriculture club, they talk about composting. They knew what cover cropping was. They knew what no-till farming was. And then I had to point out some of the advantages and the disadvantages in regenerative agriculture. Slide, please. And then we started talking about environmental justice. I didn't want to give them like a basic definition of what it meant. I wanted them to watch a video and kind of give me what do they think it meant after watching that video, and if they experience any environmental injustices. So I had them watch a video on the Minamata disaster in Minamata, Japan. And just to kind of give you some insight of what had happened there. There was a company called the Chiso Company, which was a chemical company. They were dumping mercury into the bay nearby residents that were poor, I would say, and they relied a lot on the bay for fish. And then the fish were poisoned from the mercury, and then the residents eating that fish, poisoned mercury, had a lot of birth defects. There were diseases that went around, emotional disturbances, a lot of neurological impairments, such as muscle weaknesses, tremors, loss of coordination, and speech difficulties. Slide, please. So after they watched that video, I asked them, what does it mean? How does this correlate to environmental injustice? Like, what does that mean to you? What did you guys find? Like, what was injustice? And they gathered a lot of information. I was actually surprised. The first stating that Chiso Company neglected the nearby community by dumping more mercury into the waters. They also said the mercury into the waters, the Chiso Company dumping the mercury into the waters, doing that and knowing what was at risk was injustice. And then I asked them, do you or anyone have anyone you've known experienced environmental injustice? And then a lot of them pointed out that, they don't have a lot of fresh resources near them. They don't have a lot of grocery stores near them. It's a lot of fast food places. There's gas stations, there's liquor stores. There's nothing there for them to have anything fresh. And then another person pointed out that, there's a oversaturation of fast food places. The factories that are building nearby their homes affects their air quality. Slide, please. Sorry. And then for the last slide, we talked about how do all three of those, correlate. I gave them some bullet points, and then we had a little small discussion on that. Slide, please. And then I had them search up a few companies that are actively involved in helping their community. And then I had a few questions. I gave them a packet and they had to answer a few questions on what they found from their company, some of the information that they found. Slide, please. And then we touched on some of the key takeaways that the students gathered after my presentation and, you know, the research that we did. I don't want to read all of them verbatim, but you guys can take a quick look and then we can continue the slides, like, I guess after a minute, because there's 2 more slides that are key takeaways, but from different groups, classes, grades. All right, and then towards the end of the class, I had them brainstorm a project that they could implement within their community or school. And why was this important for your community and how would it impact their community? They didn't answer all of the questions, but they gave me some interesting project ideas. My favorite one was, I think it's in the 11th grade or 12th grade section. And they were basically stating that, you know, they would take the lettuce that they grew in their greenhouse and sell it to their community and use that money to invest it back into the greenhouse to, you know, potentially make a larger aquaponic system or a hydroponic system. But yeah, you guys can take a look at some of those ideas. It's pretty innovative and pretty creative. And that's it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Brittany. Wow, I loved it. I love that idea. You know, I think the emphasis of education within the climate justice and environmental justice space is it's very strong, I should just say. I love this. And the fact that they didn't know is just testimony. So like a testament, I should say, to the fact that we need to educate the next generation, the youth coming up. And really, really important. I think I liked how you blended multiple spaces. The fact that you created kind of a workshop to educate 9 through 12, but also included the regenerative agriculture and also some air quality issues with the wheelbarrow. Thought it was very interesting seeing their thoughts on giving the positives as well. That was, I mean, it's necessary to have these conversations. So loved it. Thank you. And if anybody has questions for Brittany, please drop it in the chat. And then we'll move on to our next presenter, our next fellow. So next up, we will have Nikki.
Hi, everyone. I am Nicole Jackson, and I'll jump right in. So my project is titled Strides for Change because of the importance of taking strategic and intentional steps to affect change within communities. It's a step-by-step, my intention is to do a step-by-step guide and eventually make strides to get the communities that I'm working with their desired outcomes as it pertains to sustainability, conservation, and environmental justice. So when we think about community resilience, what first comes to mind for me is making sure that the basic needs of the community are met in order to be able to adequately recover from the impacts of environmental disasters. So when we look at communities, we want to look at them and take a holistic approach to implement different types of solutions. So one of the basic needs that we looked at, or that I looked at in the beginning, what's more basic than shelter and food? So I decided to choose food as one of those basic needs because it's the most basic human need that we have. You know, even if we don't have shelter or we're not covered from the elements, we still need sustenance to be able to thrive. So what I planned for this capstone in the context of environmental justice has taught us that history has taught us basically that Black and Brown communities have suffered from and still suffer from impacts of food apartheid, and in the form of food deserts, food swamps, and food insecurity. Next slide, please. When I think about this multi-phased approach, I decided to embark on a journey that would encompass community engagement. So the first phase of the project included a community conversation. During this community conversation, we talked about food sovereignty, basically meaning it's a concept that allows people to define their own food systems and policies based on their needs, their values, and cultures within their own community. We look at food sovereignty as a way of helping us build community resilience in that aspect. Next slide, please. In order to help me do this project, I garnered the help of several community partners, the Capital Market, which is a grassroots organization with leadership made up of local members, and their aim is to increase Black civic participation and strengthen health systems that reflect and include Black and cultural heritage. The Capital Market suggested Neighborhood Design Center as a partner because they already work with them. And Neighborhood Design Center is a nonprofit within Maryland that partners with community leaders to help envision better parks, public spaces, and streetscapes, just among a few other things. We partnered with the City of District Heights, specifically the Sustainability Committee, of which I am the chair, and the District Heights Sustainability Committee loves to promote environmental sustainability, environmental justice, and community education within the incorporated city of District Heights. So I discovered the Capital Market actually on Twitter. Back in earlier this year, I had seen a walk audit that they had done in Capitol Heights, Forest Heights, Forestville, and some other areas around Prince George's County. And as the chair of the Sustainability Committee for District Heights, I reached out to them to see if they could help implement something like that here within the city of District Heights. I spoke with Brittany Drakeford, who leads the efforts with Capital Market, and she's also a PhD candidate at the University of Maryland, College Park, in addition to an experienced urban planner. So we talked about, the benefits of walk audits for certain communities in terms of helping us use them to be able to help inform and affect change, specifically as it relates to policies within cities. So after Brittany and I talked, I invited Brittany to join me to present the idea to the mayor and commission to the city of District Heights. I'm fortunate such that the mayor and commission in the city, they were very much impressed and very much on board, and gave the go-ahead to spearhead the project to move forward. So Brittany suggested that before we actually do the walk audit, that we start with a community conversation, and the community conversation would help gauge the community's knowledge of healthy foods and access to those foods, and we would help them fill in any gaps for any questions that they may have. So Ariel, I have the first video there.
The District Heights Sustainability Committee had the privilege of leading a 2-hour discussion centered around the accessibility of healthy foods and the direct influence of environmental factors on this accessibility. Our dialogue was graced by the expertise of professionals from local community partners such as the Capital Market and the Neighborhood Design Center. The experts played a vital role in guiding the conversation and steering it towards specific focal points that emerged during our conversation. During this session, we undertook the task of formulating and refining various definitions relating to the availability of healthy food, tailoring them to meet the specific needs and aspirations of our community. We delved into terms that hold direct relevance to the availability of healthy foods in underserved communities, such as food apartheid, food justice, food insecurity, food desert, and food swamp. Our exploration encompassed strategies to facilitate convenient access to wholesome food through alternative modes of transportation beyond traditional vehicles, such as walking and biking.
If we go back to the last slide, Ariel. So basically we had about 20 people come out, most notable, and I'm very happy that the commission and mayor and commission were on board. They were all in attendance for the community conversation. In addition, we had representative from Maryland Delegate Jazz Lewis's office come out and participate in the conversation. We had representative from Prince George's County Council, District 7, Councilwoman Crystal Oriata came out and shared with us about her excitement for what it is that I was wanting to bring to the community. The conversation overall, it was a very dynamic conversation. We had a diverse array of community members participating in the conversation, and we took a lot of information from the conversation. One being in particular, as a community, we decided to define our own definition of what healthy food access is. Like, you can look on Google and you could find all sorts of things. But for the people in the room, and it was, like I said, it was a broad range of individuals that came. People in the room basically define healthy foods as a safe way for people to reach nutritious foods. And it included the ability to navigate and retrieve affordable foods, wholesome foods, even prepared foods that are relatively nutritious, but within a 15 to 20 minute walk, bike or scooter ride, or any other form, or public transportation, any other form of a non-traditional vehicle mode. Next slide. So the next phase of the project after the community conversation was to actually do the specific walk audit. So a walk audit is a form of participatory action research where community members are encouraged to go out, boots to the ground. We walk the neighborhoods. We assess the neighborhoods for environmental issues, safety issues, like infrastructure issues. And this happened actually in August, and the Capital Market actually led the walk for us. They came out on a Saturday morning. They gave us some training, and because they're experienced in doing this, they gave us some training, and they guided us through the process for doing that. So basically, the community walk audit embodies a mode of, like I said, participatory action research, and its focus is to help empower residents to take on roles as advocates and researchers, sort of like community scientists within our own spaces. The audits involved participants evaluating street conditions, looking at requirements or safety requirements for pedestrians, cyclists. For example, some of us walk the neighborhoods and we may have noted that sidewalks may have disappeared, or there could have been some sidewalks that were unsafe. So basically the pedestrian audits are conducted either individually or collectively. So in our case, we did it collectively as a group. Next slide, Aria. On a Saturday morning, we had about 15 people come out and participate in the walk audit with us. Some of the individuals were repeats from the community conversation, like Councilwoman Crystal Oriata. She came out to cheer us on. She did not walk with us. She is expecting her first child soon, but she came out to root for us, gave us encouragement, and let us know that she is looking forward to getting the final report and reading the report so that she can be a champion for our community and things that we need in terms of different types of resources. We also had some representatives, surprisingly, from the Prince George's County Audubon Society. And we were pretty excited about that. So next slide, Aria. So we split into 4 groups, and we took 4 different routes, which included focal points in the community. And remember, the goals of us walking were to make sure that things were easily and safely accessible for healthy foods within 15 to 20 minutes, either on foot, bike, or scooter. We also wanted to speak with members that were out in the community when we were walking. So we wanted to also get perspectives of community members and engage them with questions that we may not have covered during the community conversation. So for example, I took route number 4, and it left from the Municipal Center in District Heights to a community garden that we have here in the city. And on that route, we encountered a neighbor that lives here, and he was telling us that, you know, he would like to see more street lights. So that's one of the things that we look at when we're talking about safety. You know, it's relatively quiet neighborhood, but if someone's walking in the evening, there isn't a lot of light, nor is there a sidewalk specifically in the area where this particular neighbor lived. The third thing that we wanted to make sure that we looked at was we wanted to observe environmental conditions specifically for safety or comfortability. So another example of that, also on the route that I particularly walked, we noticed a significant lack of tree cover, which meant that the walk was uncomfortable. So if we had to walk from a residence that was in the city center to the local grocery store or anywhere else in the community, it would be a rather uncomfortable walk and much hotter because we lacked that tree cover for shade. Next slide, Aria. So after we finished the walk audits, which took about 2.5 hours, because each route was just about a mile to maybe a mile and a half. So we walked to the destinations and then we walked back. When we came back to the Municipal Center, we did a debrief, and we made sure that we compared our responses, and we gathered all of the responses so that we can sort of gather that quantitative data to put with the qualitative data that we gathered from talking with residences and the community conversation. Next slide, Aria. So the next step, still in the first phase, but the next step after the walk audit and after the debrief is to compile the data and present on the data. That part of the project is actually still in progress. For the final report, I will be able to share that report later with you guys via link. However, I wanted to let you know so that, the data will be used, the report will be used as a form of advocacy within the community with the with the city commission. District Heights has a commission with the city commission and our council person, Crystal Oriata, who is District 7. So we're looking at the report to be able to show strengths, weaknesses, advantages, concerns, or current predicaments within the community. And then furthermore, the data aids community members in being able to devise strategies to help tackle matters of food insecurity and food apartheid. Next slide, Ariel. So now for the part of the phase 2 of the project that you guys are here for, what I worked mostly on during the time of my time here with Siege. So for this phase of the project, I set out to actually do a series of vlogs or podcast episodes, but then I soon discovered in order to present a polished sort of podcast, it would take a bit more time, a bit more effort, and possibly additional money. So I would need to seek additional community partners. So I decided to pivot. It doesn't mean that I will not do the podcast. What it means is that I will eventually do 4 to 6 podcasts after I can garner an additional partner to help polish that. So what did I pivot to? Next slide, Ariel. Instead, I hosted a series of interviews with people in the community and asked people to share their climate stories while highlighting their access and relationships to healthy foods. We talked about different terminologies that are used in the fight for food justice. So some of the same terminologies that you heard that we talked about in community conversation. We talked about people's experiences with nature within the community. And the most important, we talked about people's desires and vision for a future within their own community and better access to healthy foods. Next video, Ariel. So the video that you are about to see actually is because I undertook the mission of, could you pause it? Yeah, I undertook the mission of, I wanted to amplify the voices of people in underrepresented communities. So the broader discussions provided an avenue for community members to be able to express not just their climate narratives, but to be able to share with us the visions for the future. So the short film that you're about to see, it just offers a glimpse into a larger conversations, but we pulled out specifically things that were specific to what the residents said that they would like to see in terms of a vision for a healthier community. Okay, Aria. What is your ideal vision of what a community with good, healthy food access looks like? What does that look like for you?
Ideally, I think I would want everything to be homegrown, in a sense, honestly. I want to grow my own string beans. I want to grow my own tomatoes. I don't want to have to go to the store and have to wash off pesticides off of my fruit and vegetables. I want to be able to have access to those things that are in its natural form.
Like, what would you like to see?
So I would like to see a more pedestrian and biker focused Pike area, like a bike lane would be nice, updated crosswalk, some trees so it's not hot, sidewalks everywhere. I'd love to see that kind of care being placed. I would like to see some markets, like even if it's a monthly or a weekly farmers market of some sort where you can just have some access to some fresh foods. Ideally, they would accept SNAP.
I would like to see more resources being developed in our community, and not just the normal ones we know. The resources to be able to have smaller homegrown grocers in our area. Some more of our own flea markets where where our own farmers are coming out and supporting the community and growing their own fruits and vegetables and supplying it to the community. Like, I would like us to be able to be more educated, further educated on how we can improve our area ourselves. Our Black and brown people get educated on what we can do to support our area a little bit more. Hopefully in the future with our kids, with us teaching and us educating them, they'll continue to strive to help the Black and brown community to be a little bit more educated on the environment, on food sources, on what we can do to support our community.
Well, first is riding my bike more often. I think I mentioned earlier, just like reducing that carbon footprint where I live, and trying to get more people biking. I think trying to get more people biking to the grocery store, to like some of these quick places they can easily get to by bike and they don't have to drive a car there. I would love to see easier access to fresh food options. We are in the process of like transferring her from milk to solid, so like we are like processing fruits and processing vegetables to feed her. So I would love to be able to like access that like within a few miles of my home rather than having to drive to a location. Or I would love to be able to bike down the road and get some vegetables or some fruits that I can take home to process for her to eat. But just thinking about her future, like I would love for her to be able to access that as well, like not just not just by bike. Like I want her to be able to walk somewhere. Like
the first sign of it is more activity in the community, meaning like you would see more people outside and you would see more people walking, if anything, because they were going somewhere, right? They might have direct access to those things close to them, but also you'll see a variety of ages, different ages throughout the community.
Definitely more farmers markets. I just like them because you end up buying more stuff, and you see different types of vegetables and fruits and everything else. What is actually things that are not even in the stores, or you would go to a specific health food store or herbal place that's out there, and it's for the community, and it's not that expensive. More green space. Definitely need more park. Even if building up everything just because you have an open space doesn't mean you should build on it. Have it walkable. Transportation, accessibility, whether it's the buses or metro.
That's an interesting question, because actually that is what motivated me to become part of our municipal sustainability committee, because I have 5 grandchildren and they grew up here in this community. What I would like them to see or be a part of is a community something similar to what I grew up in as a child, right? Whatever. But this beautiful garden we're sitting in today, with the flowers and the pollination for the bees. Because in my backyard, I know it may sound, I have clovers. Okay. And they spread it. So I see honeybees all the time in my backyard. But the bees have to live. And they are responsible for, if we don't have bees, there's no pollination.
There's no food.
There's no food. Growing up in the country and appreciate the importance of pollination. So I am very impressed when we got this pollination garden planted down here, because around the Veterans Park, because it's very important to have pollination for food.
And in my household, we had like a mini farm. We had a greenhouse, and we had chickens. We had a goat. We had pear trees, fig trees, and growing up, I spent most of my time with my family gardening and preparation of food. It was like a love language to us, right? I want to be able to shop happily in my neighborhood for the foods that I would like to eat and not have to ride 25 or 30 minutes away through traffic to be able to get to those. I want to be able to see grocery stores that I see in other communities. I always ask myself, why can't I go to other communities and find things, but when I come to my community, I can't find them? Why is there have to be a difference?
Right.
No matter what I look like.
So tell me what you see here. If you took a 15-minute walk from your front door into any direction,
In any direction, I'm seeing gas stations, tobacco stores, fast food restaurants, bars, lounges, things that are not promoting a healthy lifestyle for those in our community.
Exactly.
Like, there shouldn't be a hookah lounge next door to me. The hookah alone is a problem in itself. But I don't know if we're talking about that today.
No, we are, because that's part of your environment. So one of the things.
Thanks, Ariel. We can go to the next slide. So just a quick note about the film. We shot several of the interviews in the Veterans Park that they have in the city of District Heights, in the and also in one of the community gardens that they have here. And you saw that one video was inside, and it was done the day after we did the other videos. And the reason we ended up inside was because the temperature was significantly different from one day to the next. It was a nice breeze when we were sitting outside. I think in the video you could see like some of the flags waving behind some of the residents here. But the very next day, it was so excruciatingly hot to even just sit outside for like 3 to 5 minutes. We started to sweat, so we had to move it inside. But I wanted to talk about the last two clips that you saw. Miss Renita, she mentioned, she's like, why does it have to be a difference no matter what I look like? And then Brianna talked about, her not wanting to see all of the things that many of our Black and Brown communities have in the community. So that was one of the central themes when we were talking to people. There seems to be a misnomer that if people didn't patronize some of the businesses that are in their communities, that the businesses would die. But I like to say that's not necessarily true. A lot of people patronize those businesses because that's what they have access to. And in certain communities, specifically those frontline communities that are considered environmental justice communities, if they come up on some of the EJ screening tools, people lack the ability to be able to access things outside of their community. So it's very important that we don't just discount people because they can't afford to live somewhere else. We have to look at it from a holistic approach. People are accessing or patronizing those businesses because they don't have anything else. So the next steps that we're looking at is exploring some of the zoning practices in Black and Brown communities, specifically looking more at some of the zoning practices in the area closer to District Heights, because District Heights is a municipality within Prince George's County. However, some parts of the municipality have been taken over by the county, and the elected officials do not have authority to say which businesses can and cannot come in their community. They have the authority to make that decision for some businesses, but not the businesses that we would deem detrimental to our businesses. So overall, I think I mentioned earlier, the next steps, I want to make sure we get that report done. We're going to do a story map. I'm going to share the report with our elected officials during one of the county meetings. One of my partners recommended that I take the additional video footage and gather some more interviews and sort of create a mini documentary. So I'll be looking for partners to help with that. And we're also going to look at, fleshing out a full podcast with maybe 4 to 6 episodes just to talk about the process and my experience with the Siege Fellowship Program. And then last but not least, continue just community engagement. And one of those community engagement activities that District Heights is participating in is called Power in the Park. And we have a partner with the NAACP, Maryland State Conference Environmental and Climate Justice Committee. And we're putting that event on, and it's a community-centered event focused on helping residents reduce their energy bills. So anyone in the community is welcome to come. You guys are welcome to come. If you're out there watching, you can go to Eventbrite and search Power in the Park, and it'll come up for you to be able to register. And that is it, Ariel.
Okay, thank you so much, Nikki. Definitely that video. Wow, yes. I see some of the comments in the chat too. The kind of boots to the ground direction that you were looking for, it was definitely relayed. I felt very connected with the community members when they were speaking throughout that video. And I see some folks asking for you to share it too. I mean, it was lovely. So I do appreciate also the different components within this project. I have mentioned that to you before. So well done. This was great. And for the sake of time, we are going to jump to our last but not least fellow, Myra. You have the floor.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Myra Cobb Davis. I'm the Senior Administration Manager for Montgomery County Green Bank. Thanks, Ariel, Dr. Wilson, and the rest of the fellows. I've learned so much during these past several months. And thanks to Amanda Rockler, who kind of helped assist me in doing some research on the Baltimore Watershed 263 project. And this interests me because Montgomery County Green Bank is looking to start doing some resiliency work. So this is why I picked this as my project. Next slide. The watershed restoration, the Clean Water Act was created in 1972, and I will be focusing on a more localized scale for the projects that was in the watershed. Next slide. This right here is a cool illustration of stormwater runoff in urban areas. When it rains, water flows from impervious areas, meaning that water is not able to infiltrate or pass through, and it goes into the storm drains of the local body. Next slide. Baltimore's Watershed 263 was initiated in 2004, and it's consists of 11 neighborhoods. The watersheds have both indirect and direct impacts on human beings in Baltimore. We see projects like Watershed 263, which aims to improve the water quality through green strategies. Next slide. All of the neighborhoods, the 11 neighborhoods in the Baltimore watershed plus Carroll Park goes into West Baltimore. When it rains, the pollutants found in the roads goes into the storm drains towards the Baltimore Harbor and eventually the bay. The research that I did, or that Amanda assisted me with, kind of researched the human dynamics in the context of actions in the population decline in urban residents. If you look at the slide, the population of where the watersheds are consists of Black and brown people. And I don't know if anyone is familiar with the Ellicott City, the Ellicott City flood in 2018. The same thing happened in the watershed, but it didn't get much press, I guess, because it's in an urban neighborhood. Next slide. So Baltimore is then divided into various watersheds. And from 2004 to 2011, water samples were taken on a weekly basis to measure pollutants. And because of the watershed consists of so much paving. I'm sorry, I'm so nervous. Let me back up.
You got it.
Wait a minute, let me see. I'm sorry. Okay, here's my slide. I'm lost. I can't see. Sorry, I froze.
Do you want me to go back?
Wait a minute. I can't. I lost my screen. Oh my goodness. And my internet keeps going in and out. Ariel, I'm so sorry.
You're okay. You're fine. No worries. Take your time. Can you see my screen?
Mm-mm.
Okay, hold on. Let me remove and start again. You're fine. You're fine.
Okay, we are
You
back.
can see?
And I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yes.
Fine,
Okay. Sorry.
The chat is being very supportive. Everyone's saying, take your time.
I'm
It happens to
sorry.
all of
And
us.
I've been
You're
having internet issues all day. And for the lack of time, for the sake of time, we can go into the next slide, Ariel. Okay, green infrastructure was implemented in the Baltimore 263 project. And it made a lot of difference in the community, and a lot of the residents and everybody was getting involved in this project. I think the next slide. So what came out of the Baltimore Watershed 360 is a network called Baltimore Green in connection with the Baltimore Office of Sustainability. that is comprised of local and state government agencies, nonprofit groups, to include Baltimore Tree Trust and residents that's working towards implementing Watershed 263 in other parts of the city. So it's been a motivation to implement what the 263 watershed project did in other parts of Baltimore. Okay. Next slide is just to implement this project like this in other parts of Baltimore. When talking with Amanda and trying to get in touch with the city of Baltimore to see where they are now, I couldn't get anybody in it. And but recommendations from Amanda will be made to come up with plans to better serve the residents of Baltimore. And that is it. Thank you. Sorry for my internet stuff.
Thank you, Myra. No, you're completely fine. The stormwater project is an extremely important project. I mean, all of the projects are extremely important, to be quite honest. But especially within the watershed, within Baltimore. Thank you for all of your projects, all of your hard work. I know there were some difficulties kind of running around trying to get in contact with community members because everyone is so busy.
Yes.
But I mean, everyone else would not know that. It's just us. So you did a fantastic job, all three of you. And I think right now we can move into getting some questions from the chat. I do have one, and this might be for Brittany and Nikki, but Myra, feel free to jump in if you'd like. And I'm going to add it to the screen. The question is, why do minority communities lack produce? Farmers have so much waste. Why not sell it in frontline communities at reduced prices? Better would sell. I mean, these are just comments, whatever you think, your views, feel free to add.
So I'll jump in. So there are a myriad of reasons why. One, there's a misnomer that, a good number of Black and Brown people do not participate in the consumption of healthy foods, of fresh foods, of whole foods. Again, like I said, it's a misnomer. So one of the things that we need to highlight is we need to talk to our friends and family members and our neighbors. A lot of people don't, know their neighbors anymore, but we need to have a collective voice when it comes to letting our elected officials know what it is that we want to have in our communities. Because it's those zoning things that goes back to redlining practices, which is why I mentioned food apartheid. So food apartheid is a direct result of some of the redlining and historical policies that we've had in the past, specifically some of those policies from Jim Crow. While the policies may have been dispelled, one of the things that we have seen is that the effects of those policies have not changed very much at all. So when we look at the zoning in a lot of communities, we also look at the businesses who think that they won't be welcomed in certain communities, or that they won't make a profit in certain communities. But to speak directly to, I think it's Gail, about farmers, we also have to look at the farming community. I'm sorry, I don't want to say the specific statistic and say it incorrectly, but I will say this generally. We lack sufficient numbers of Black and Brown farmers in the United States compared to white farmers. And a lot of those farmers that are not of the Black or Brown community will tend to go to other places to sell their produce because they may have the same misnomers that some of the larger markets will have. What I like to say is when we're talking about food sovereignty, we have to look from within and start to educate our own community about produce, about growing, and making an impact within our communities. And we need to put some of these things in our own communities. I'll yield to Brittany.
Yeah, just pretty much what you were stating about, people not buying things that they're not used to. They don't have that, they're not eating vegetables every day. They don't have fruits incorporated in their meals every day. They're not going to go out their way, to buy that particular thing. Another thing I found interesting was that, I asked the teacher, I was like, how come you guys don't sell the lettuce to the students or to the communities nearby? And he was saying that once they found out that it was fish waste, that was the nutrients to grow the plants, the lettuce, they were kind of like standoffish. So yeah, just kind of incorporating that into the community, selling it to the community, getting them interested in it, educating them is something that I would say.
I have to agree. Educate the community and get the community involved.
Absolutely. So I think we have reached our time, folks. I want to just thank my fellows again. Our cohort group was amazing, and thank you for again such wonderful presentations. You all killed it, and thank you to our audience. This was a wonderful session, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. If you do attend the closing, I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you tomorrow if you are coming back. Bye, everyone.